good. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zionsville Chamber Business Breakfast presented by the National Bank of Indianapolis. My name is Mike Hanlon. I'm the Executive Director of the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce. Before we get this started this morning, I'd like to thank Mayor John Stehr for taking time out of his very busy schedule for joining us this morning, along with the National Bank of Indianapolis, Church Hiddle in Antrim for sponsoring today's event. I'd also like to recognize and thank Our Place Coffee in Zionsville for the coffee and delicious breakfast items. Finally, I'd like to express my heartfelt thank you to our corporate partners, Boone Village, Control Tech Heating and Air, Hoosier Village, and Ed Martin Buick C for making events like this possible. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Zionsville resident and CEO of Elevate Ventures, Christopher Day.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It is so awesome to see the students here in the front row. It's an honor this morning to introduce our great mayor. So my name is Christopher Day. Now that we're all friends, call me Toph. The CEO of Elevate Ventures. We're the #1 most active investor in the Great Lakes region and #8 in the United States. We believe that Indiana is poised to be the innovation capital of the world. Zionsville is in the heart of that nexus. And so we have the opportunity to chart a path to serve our residents much better and also to help our local business community to thrive. It's going to take a bold vision and a lot of planning to pull this off. That's why we elected John Stehr as the 4th mayor of Zionsville. So please join me in welcoming our mayor, John Stehr.
Thank you. I want to thank Chris for that fine introduction today. You know, it's people like Chris that make Zionsville what it is. I appreciate the introduction. I'm proud to have you as a resident. And you know, one of the things about him is he's always thinking about ways to make things better. But most mornings, he leaves Zionsville and he goes to work at his office in Indianapolis with his team. Wouldn't it be great if we had a creative office space for him here and his team? We're working on that, and we'll talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to welcome everyone to Town Hall. This is feeling very familiar to me. It was 87 days ago that I stood on this very spot and took the oath as Zionsville's 4th mayor. It was a great day for me and my family, and now the rest of you get to decide whether it was a great day for Zionsville. I guess we'll see how it works out. But for those of you who weren't here that day, I talked a lot about Zionsville history. I really appreciate Zionsville history. Everything from our settlers back in the 1850s to Abraham Lincoln's train stopping at Lincoln Park, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, that he stopped at Lincoln Park, to the day we moved into this building, which is Zionsville's 5th town hall, just over 6 years ago. I want you to know that I appreciate all of it. Where we have been plays a big part in who we are today. But think about this. We live with our history, but we don't live in our history. And that's something that groups like the Chamber of Commerce certainly understand, because what they do is they build on where we have been to inform where we are today in business, in our schools, and in our neighborhoods. So I want to begin by thanking the Chamber for putting this together today, especially the Director, Mike Hamlin, and also the President, Denise Pierce. You know, we all benefit from their efforts, whether we have a business here or not. So Mike and Denise, could you please stand up? And how about a nice round of applause for them? I also want to thank our town council for their partnership in working to keep our town safe and strong. Now, I have gotten to know personally every one of our counselors. I campaigned with most of them, and I can tell you that every single one of them has the best interests of Zionsville at heart. So the town councilors in the room, would you please stand up? I want to thank them for being here today. And in fact, one of the first things that we agreed on very early was the formation of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. And I've come to find that these young people have a lot to add to the conversation. I have little doubt there's a future mayor or two in this group. They will surely be our town leaders one day, and it's been very encouraging to hear what they think of the way our town operates. So I'd like to ask them to stand up, and I'd like to encourage you to give them a hearty round of applause for what they're doing. Now, these young people are watching us closely, and that's a good thing, because I think what they're observing here is the finest group of department heads at any municipality in the state. Our Chief of Police, Mike Spears, our Fire Chief, Jamie Van Gorder, DPW Director, Lance, Planning and Building Director, Mike Dale, our Park Superintendent, Jared Logsdon, Finance Director, Cindy Poor, and our HR Director, Joe Keel. Could you all please stand up and be recognized? All right, so here's the problem. When you start naming people, you're bound to forget somebody. So let me say this. We have 200 employees that work for the town of Zionsville, and I get the privilege of working with them every day. I'm proud to stand side by side with them because they are the ones that provide us with the level of service that all of us have come to expect and appreciate. So will the town hall staff in the room please stand up? And I would be remiss if I didn't especially point out our newest employee, Dahlia. We call her Dolly. She is our town's therapy dog. She's available to all of our town employees and all of our town residents. So how about a nice round of applause for Dolly? You know, we live in a great town, and I wanted this job to try to help it be just a little bit better. Better with our finances, better at managing growth, and better at communicating with one another, to help envision a Zionsville that future generations will love as much then as we do now. The people that came before us left a great foundation upon which to build, and they did it brick by brick, literally, not just a metaphor. They actually used bricks, and that provides a direct connection to us today. Zionsville is not and has never been a fixer-upper. Our history started in 1852 with people who simply couldn't get here fast enough. And it continues today with 35,000 people who live, work, learn, and play in what I think is the best place in Indiana. We are consistently in Indiana's top 5 in safety, in education, in property values. And you add to that our people who know and care for one another. This is our DNA. This is who we are. And because of all these things, the state of our town has never been stronger. Zionsville is strong enough to look forward with a bold vision, to build on who we are, to become the town that we need to be. Our first settlers did that by focusing on commerce and education, and all 8 generations of Hoosiers who followed left their mark. Now for us, the task before us is not to create Zionsville 2.0. It's about evolving into the place that our children and grandchildren will also be proud to call home. A place that holds on to our storied past and is well positioned for the next 172 years of our shared history. Our Brick Street Business District is the heart and soul of Zionsville. And the best way to keep the heart beating and the soul strong is to put people in proximity to use it, to come to the restaurants and the shops and enjoy the environment that we hold so dear. And that's why I'm proposing a master plan for 160 acres to expand the South Village that will ensure a vibrant future for our young families, our empty nesters, and those who will one day be our town leaders. Now, some of us remember what it was like just a few decades ago when Main Street had 3 gas stations, quite a few empty storefronts, and the first thing you saw when you entered town through the south end of the village was a fast food restaurant across the street from one of those gas stations with our first and only stoplight right in the middle. Zionsville has come a long way since then, but I believe we have further to go, and I believe that path runs through the South Village. Our vision for South Village includes nearly $250 million in new investment, offices, green space with connections to the Big 4 rail trail, restrooms, new parking, restaurants and shops, and places for neighbors to call home. So when heading north on Zionsville Road and crossing Eagle Creek, the road will take you to the west, lining up with First Street. That opens up 13 acres of some of the best property in Indiana for development that will help provide a living for scores of people and help take the pressure off of property taxes for the rest of us. As the South Village reaches to achieve its own potential, we must never forget its core purpose, and that is to enhance and support our historic brick Main Street business district. While the first step is to make cars move more efficiently, it's important to note that traffic will continue in both directions on Main Street on every single one of our iconic bricks. If you're on Zionsville Road, there will be a visual reminder into our storied history, a view into what makes our town unique, and also a new civic plaza that will draw us together to celebrate holidays, special events, farmers markets, festivals, concerts, and the simple joy of sharing an ice cream cone with our children and grandchildren. Now, I'm not here to ask you to take my word for this. I'd like to ask you to listen to the voices of some of the people who helped make Zionsville great.
I believe Zionsville would benefit from the South Village project because all generations have been involved in its creation, making certain Zionsville will continue to be the place to live, shop, dine, or just be in the moment.
So having started my software business here in Zionsville, it's been really interesting to look at where we might go as we grow. And the South Village project really seems like an opportunity for companies like mine to bring the right talent into Zionsville.
The extension of the South Village will provide additional opportunities for visitors, for residents, for businesses to shop, dine, perhaps spend the night, spend more time in the town of Zionsville and within Boone County.
It's really exciting, the future of Zionsville with new leadership under Mayor Stehr in the South Village project and what that will do to help bring the community together and help our existing shop owners. Zionsville is going to be a critical part of the Central Indiana innovation community.
That is the gateway to Zionsville. We have to do it for Zionsville, for Main Street, and for everyone in the town.
As a business owner on Main Street, I believe the South Village project will enhance the current businesses in the village by bringing new visitors to our already charming town.
I'm really excited for the South Village project to hopefully bring a community location for both younger generations and older generations to meet and have a great community.
We are really excited to bring a comprehensive plan that is led by the town, for the town, in the way that emulates everything that Zionsville is and continues to protect and project the Zionsville culture.
Our village has a golden opportunity to enhance its unique quaintness by finishing the job. Let's achieve a pedestrian-friendly, business-thriving, and nature-connecting village center together.
To those of you who say that this is happening too fast, I would remind you that this area of town has been studied and considered for more than 20 years. A major land use study in 2011 cost us $60,000, $85,000 in today's money. The Zionsville Gateway Area Study, which began in 2020, cost us nearly $50,000 more. We have active engineering work going on right now at a price tag of nearly $2 million to look at the efficient use of traffic and traffic flow and also where utilities will run in the area, all while protecting pedestrians and enhancing business and life in the village. Too fast? If we started working this afternoon, it would take more than 5 years to complete this project because our plan is to do it in a deliberate, thoughtful, and phased way so we don't negatively impact our downtown business district on the way to bolstering it. Every detail has been considered: economic viability, environmental impact, and the preservation of 40% green space. Also, the impact on the people who live here now, as well as our new neighbors who will move in when it is completed. The South Village will support the Brick Main Street Business District by creating a new Zionsville neighborhood, a place where current and new neighbors can live, work, play, shop, and retire. The South Village will reinforce what we love about Zionsville and provide a place where generations can come together to live in a community with a sense of community, a place that is always reaching for its highest and best use. You know, we live in a time when agreement on anything is hard to achieve. But I think most of us who live here can agree that our history is important and it should always inform our future. The South Village is the link between the two. And as we celebrate the strong state of our town today, let us consider this: how we got here is not how we're going to get there. And that's why I urge our Chamber of Commerce, our business and school leaders, elected officials, our town staff, and all of my fellow citizens to embrace what's ahead by building upon our heritage and seeking our best future for Zionsville, brick by brick. May God bless all of you. May God bless all of you and your families, our friends and neighbors, and may God continue to bless Zionsville. Thank you. Now I know that many of you have questions, and this would be a great time to ask them, and I will answer every question to the best of my knowledge with complete transparency. So does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? Yes?
How do you plan on improving the environment of downtown Zionsville while also maintaining its distinct small-town charm?
How do we plan to improve on the environment of downtown Zionsville while maintaining its distinct charm? Is that right? Okay, thank you for that question. The whole purpose of this is to preserve and protect our Brick Street Business District. We're not going to touch one brick. And we talked about the traffic situation at First and Sycamore. Well, you can't deal with that intersection without thinking about First and Oak, because you can't just get people through there faster and create a bottleneck further down the road. That has been considered too. And what I have said to the traffic engineers as they've looked at that is, we are not going to touch an inch of Lions Park. That is too important, or excuse me, Lincoln Park. That's too important to our town. And likewise, we are not going to touch one brick on Main Street. The whole purpose of this and the main objective here is to bolster the Brick Main Street, to give our businesses more people to come in, to preserve that charm that people love. I've been in meetings recently with other mayors from different municipalities around here, and I can tell you every single one of them wishes that they had what we have in Zionsville. They're spending a lot of money to try to create it. We have it organically, and it's incumbent upon us to keep it strong, to keep it there, to keep it growing, and keep it vibrant for future generations of folks in Zionsville. Thank you for the question, Noah. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Well, you mentioned in talking about the development of South Zionsville, one of the things was a good place to retire. What are you going to be looking at in your plans there, as well as Zionsville, to have more opportunities, not necessarily for people that want to go to a specific home or something like that, but build something that works for retirees?
So the question was, for everybody that didn't hear it, question of retirees and what do we have for retirement, a retirement community. One of the things under consideration right now is a 55-plus community, because I've heard from a lot of people who are in my generation who say, I want to stay in Zionsville. My children are here, my grandchildren are here, but I don't want to have a house that I have to cut the grass. I don't want to worry about pipes freezing in the winter when I'm in Florida where it's warm for 3 months. I want to have a turnkey place that I can come back to. And if you look around central Indiana, you look around the area, these communities have become very popular. And I think there's a large group of people that want to live in Zionsville, that want to be with their children and grandchildren. They want to go to Eagle Elementary School on Grandparent Day, and they want it to be close and convenient. And I think that that is a very important aspect of the South Village project, is to have people there so all generations can mix together and all generations can be in community with one another. You know, I say this a lot. I think we have a wonderful community here. But to me, community is not just a noun, it's also a verb. And we need to live in community with one another. And having our young people together with our older generations, I think, is vitally important to the fabric of Zionsville. Yes?
Yeah, I noticed on the slide it appears that the road is being rerouted through the middle of the Citgo property. Is that correct?
Yes, more or less.
Are you going to buy the Citgo property, given the fact there won't be a whole lot of it left?
So we're at a unique time in Zionsville. In the past, other landowners have sought to develop in this area, and they've come forward with their own PUD. And you know, I have nothing against developers. For the developers in the room, I just want you to know that. But developers are going to develop, and they're going to think about their own interests, not the interest of those around them. This is the first opportunity, and what we're proposing here is for the town to lead the planned unit development. Nothing can happen there without the town's approval. So we have the opportunity to set the standards for architecture, for setbacks, for utilities, for all the elements that go into this development that's going to take place. If developer A does something and developer B does something else and we sit back and hope it all fits together, I don't think that's a very good plan. I think it's a better plan to know up front how things are going to complement one another, and because we get one chance to do this area right, John. I mean, we have to do it right. And I think that this gives us the best chance to do it right. And for the first time, we have all the landowners at the table. Everybody's on board. Everybody's on board with the idea of the town leading the PUD and giving them the standards that they need to operate under. So we won't have buildings that are too high. We won't have buildings that are too modern. Somebody said that what they would like to see is a building down there in the South Village that Teddy Roosevelt could walk out of today and would look perfectly in place. I like that idea, and I think that's something that we should strive for. Yes?
Where are all these people going to park?
Well, good question. Where are all the people going to park? We do love our parking controversies here in Zionsville. And yes, I believe that's an important aspect. Part of what we can do is build a parking garage, maybe even 2 parking garages, and those buildings would be wrapped. So they're not going to look like parking garages. We have some pictures and some renderings of what that could look like. But I'm thinking of first floor businesses, shops, and maybe some restaurants with parking up above. But buildings that are disguised to not look like parking garages. I think dropping a modern looking parking garage in the middle of Zionsville would be a really bad idea. Well, you know, I'm talking about the South Village and downtown Zionsville. And by the way, all of the developments that will occur in South Zionsville will be parking neutral. So they're all going to take care of their own parking. And we have ideas for additional parking for visitors who come to town.
Mayor, we've got a mic.
Oh, we got a mic.
Good morning. So I guess it's still in the planning or ideation phase that 50 years ago when Zionsville had 2,500 in population, it was still Sycamore, First Street, O Street, you know, the main route. Now 30,000 plus. It's still Sycamore, First Street, Oak Street. I don't see in the map. So that's still ideation in terms of how to deal with that long historical route that's come through and obviously overloaded.
We want to put more people on Main Street, on the brick Main Street. And again, I would point out that every single brick that you can drive on today, you're going to be able to drive on after this project as we conceive it is done. But what you're not going to have is people passing through town. Those aren't the cars we want on Main Street. We want the cars on Main Street that are going to stop. So as part of this proposal, after you go through the roundabout at First and Sycamore, both Hawthorne Street and Pine Street are returned to 2 ways to give you the opportunity to get back on the brick Main Street. And you know, a lot of that is messaging too. You know, you have signage that says, come to our historic brick Main Street. You know, this is our iconic brick Main Street, whatever adjectives we want to use to describe it. But I think that that will get people there, and that will get people excited about coming to it. And there's a story that I tell that when I was young, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I was a big baseball fan. Pittsburgh Pirates, right? And so they were on TV a couple times a year, and it was all black and white in those days, so you didn't really get the full effect. First time I ever went to a game, I remember walking up to the ticket window and just getting a glimpse of what it was like inside that stadium. It was so exciting to me. Walk down the concourse, you walk out your tunnel, and all of a sudden it all opens up in front of you. It was green. My heroes were there. It was amazing. And I think that we can create the same kind of feeling in Zionsville. As you're coming up Zions Road, you get a peek into what makes Zionsville special, what makes Zionsville unique. It makes you excited to want to come into it. And I think that that excitement will grow, and I think that we're going to end up, the traffic engineers tell us we'll end up with more traffic on Main Street, the kind of traffic we want. Not the kind of traffic that's passing through, but the kind of traffic that brings people who are going to want to go to the shops, want to go to the restaurants, and want to use our brick Main Street. Yes?
What will be the consideration for parks and green space?
Okay, the question, Nancy Carpenter from the Parks Foundation asking about green space and parks. 40% of this land will be preserved for green space. And as part of that, would like to create connections to the Big Four rail trail, would like to create connections that get you from one side of the street to another safely, you know, with pathways, new pathways that are going to be in there. So when our landowners come to us and say, this is the plan that we have, we're going to say, that's great, but we want you to add these trails too, to make it more accessible for people. You know, we talk about parking, and you know, everybody's always concerned about parking. Well, one way to deal with your parking problem is to give people more of an opportunity to walk downtown or to ride their bikes downtown, so they don't have to bring their car. You don't have to park a car that's not there. So that's going to be a very important aspect of it, is that pedestrian mobility and pedestrian safety. And if you look at the intersection of Sycamore and Main Street right now, that's not the safest place to cross the street. And you know, we have plans, and our traffic engineers are working on ways to make that more user-friendly and safer for everybody. Thank you for that question. You know, as many of you know, before I had this job, I was the president of the Parks Board. And Parkland is very important to me. I think that's one of the brands that Zionsville has. I think that's something that all of our residents appreciate, and I think that's something that people come from out of town for, is our park system. So we want to make sure that the park system is considered and make sure that 40% of this land is preserved for green space. Yes? Go ahead, Merv.
Okay. You mentioned the Thank you. You mentioned the importance of preserving the business district on Main Street, and I agree that's terribly important. But we shouldn't forget that one of the reasons that Main Street is so successful is the historic village. And lots of people come to eat and shop on Main Street because they then want to enjoy walking around the village. What are your plans for preserving the historic nature of the village?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important. You know, this is who we are. And you know, we have to embrace who we are. There are two things going on right now. In addition to the South Village planning, we have the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan takes a broad look at land use all across town. Now, I think the South Village planning can run concurrently with that because the South Village is a unique area. It's not highly populated. It's never reached its highest and best use. There aren't environmental issues that are stopping us from doing what we need to do there. And everything we do there is going to make things more efficient and add to our tax base in a positive way. The comprehensive planning process will take a look at everything else in Zionsville and proper land use. And I want to make sure that everybody has a voice, that the folks worried about and concerned about historic preservation in the village, that you get a voice in that. And I do know that people who live in our farm areas in the old Union and the old Perry Township, the importance and the history of their farming communities every bit as important to them as the brick Main Street is to the people who live in the village. So I get that, and we're going to hear those voices too. And we're going to make sure that we have a plan that we can mostly agree on for land use for the next generation. I think that's very important, and it's very important that we hear from all those voices. So we're not going to forget the village business or the village homeowners. Yes?
Will there be like tax breaks or TIFs implemented during this project?
Will there be tax breaks or TIF? Did everybody hear that? Yes, TIF is an important tool for getting this done. And there's a whole calculation I could go through. It probably doesn't, it's probably not as easy to talk about as it would be if I could graphically display it for you. But the land that sits there now, we're not getting very much tax revenue for the property in the South Village because there's nothing on it. It's not producing any economic activity. By allowing a TIF to occur, we can build out the infrastructure on that property. And then 20 years from now or 25 years from now when the TIF ends, we get that tax revenue. So what we're doing today is not about today. It's not about tomorrow. It's not about next week. It's about the future. It's about these guys and whether or not, they're going to school now, but whether or not, we don't want you to be late for class. That's important too. But it's about them and it's about what the town's going to be in 20 or 25 years. We want to have a town that's vibrant, and standing still is not going to get us there. You know, think of a shark in the water. If a shark's not moving, shark's dying. And I think that's true of towns too. We need to make sure that we are moving forward in a positive way, and I think this is the way to do it. Thank you. Yes?
So I remember a few years ago when there was some construction going to take place here in Zionsville on Sycamore and Maine, and there was so much reluctance. And I work with 55 and older industry, and I believe that, do you feel like the town is ready to make that step now because everyone voted against it? And I know those people spent a lot of money preparing for that.
So you're talking about a housing development that was planned?
I think there were some apartments and something like shops. Yeah, Sycamore Flats.
Yeah, ooh, we don't like to say that word. But thank you, thank you. Yes, I think that project was ill-fated from the start because all that considered was one spot, off on its own, all by itself. And I would remind you again that what we're talking about here is master planning, 160 acres. 40%, Nancy, which will stay as green space, just so you know. But master planning that so everything fits together. I think dropping one development down in the middle of all this, like it fell out of a spaceship or something, is not the right way to go. And we have control, as the town-led PUD allows us. We have control to manage traffic so that flow is never cut off. The downtown business district is never cut off from people, because that is what is at the center of everything that we do in this project. So I'd like to think that the master planning, the broad look at, is going to answer a lot of those questions for folks, and I think it's a better way forward. Yes?
Can you show the 160 acres on the map up there?
Yeah.
Just to give everybody an idea.
Yeah. So the 160 acres includes Creekside Corporate Park. Creekside Corporate Park opened, 11 years ago now, 12 years ago now. It has, I mean, let's be honest, it hasn't really reached the potential that we hoped it would reach at that time. The PUD there has been changed at least 3 times, maybe 4 times. So this is one opportunity to sweep this all together, create a PUD for the entire area once and for all, something that we can all live with, something that the landowners can live with, and something that can move forward, we can move forward with together in a positive way. So there's the 160 acres, and I think if you need perspective there, you see well, I'll go point to it. How about that? So this is 106th Street right now. This is the old 106th Street down here. This is the cemetery. This is Taylor Oil. This up here, that's what we call the Cove. Do you remember the trailer park that used to be there? Okay, that's not there anymore. What's there now is a bunch of weeds, and it's land that's not being even close to being at its highest and best use. This is Bubs and the dry cleaner and that little step right there. This is where Denise Pierce is located. This is where RL is located, and this is where Graham Ray Hall is building. This is Group 1001, and we met with the CEO of Group 1001, a $60 billion company that's headquartered in Zionsville. What we were told during that meeting was, our employees would love to have something like the South Village to use. They don't have anything like that right now. And not only will our current employees appreciate it, it'll help us recruit new employees when we need them, and it'll help recruit new businesses like ours to come here because they would have opportunities that the South Village can bring them. You know, this has broad support from those communities, from the people in the area, and most importantly from the people who own the land, who want to activate that land and add to our tax base in a positive way here in Zionsville. Yes?
Hey, John, you sound great. Looks like a good plan. My question is, are you getting rid of any of the public parking spaces that are there now in downtown? So right by Friendly's?
Will we do what?
Will you be getting rid of any of the public parking that's downtown now?
We'll be getting rid of parking, but that's a loaded statement. We're not going to be getting rid of anything. We're going to create new parking spaces, Kelly, and we're going to use that property. That's where we can go a little bit vertical and build a parking garage that does have businesses and does look like it fits into the village and parks the cars that people bring to town. I think that's very important, that we have parking available that's accessible to the downtown business district. You know, if we build a parking garage, I don't know, by the high school or something, that's not going to help. We have to do it in a way that's going to be useful to the people in the village. I believe that all the boats rise together in the harbor. You know, that's an old saying. But as we get new businesses, as we get new restaurants in the South Village area, that is only going to help the businesses and the restaurants that we have now, because it's going to put more people in the area. And then our fantastic business people and restaurant owners and pie shop owners are going to know what to do from there. Yes?
Mayor, this is very exciting, and I'm just curious if you could wave your magic wand, what your timing would be to make this all happen, and that's my basic question.
If I could wave my magic wand for the timing on all this, I would say that we need to do it deliberately, and we need to do it slowly. As I've said so many times to people, we're not going to injure the downtown business district as we seek to bolster it and seek to help it. So we're going to go slow on this. The first thing is going to be realigning the road, and we're going to do that in a way where traffic can still flow. People can still get to the Brick Street Business District. And with every element in this process, we're going to make sure that it's sequenced in a way that we have still providing access to downtown and making sure that our downtown shines the way it always has, and I hope always will. So I'm thinking 5 years, maybe 6 years from beginning to end. You know, we don't want to rush this. We don't want to do this in the next month. That would be, I think, the wrong thing to do. I think the right thing to do is to sequence it in a way that it just kind of unfolds like a flower in the spring. Yes?
Do you have an idea how many residences might be in this PUD?
How many residences in the PUD? That's to be determined. But there are places in there that right now are zoned for residential, some for single-family homes, some for condominiums, and some for multifamily housing. But I will tell you this, that whatever goes there, it's not going to look like, you know, some of the complexes that are standard today. Remember Teddy Roosevelt? We want Teddy Roosevelt to be able to walk out the door and it seem totally appropriate and the picture be, you know, exactly what it should be for Teddy Roosevelt. You know, that's where the town-led PUD comes in. We get to tell them what the architectural standards are. We get to tell them what the size restrictions are, the setbacks, everything. You know, and that's such an important element here. And I hope people take away from today that is what we really want to achieve, is having the town be in charge of this process, not the whims of individual landowners and developers. The town is going to control what happens here. Excuse me.
Is the land west of Zionsville Road, the Taylor Oil property, is that for sale, or how are we going to do this?
Well, the Taylor Oil property, not to get too deep into that, for, you know, it is private property. There are some thoughts that a 55-plus development could go onto that property, part of that property. They have a tremendous amount of property there, very valuable property. And, you know, again, it comes back to the highest and best use. Is the highest and best use being achieved there? Perhaps not. And that's something that will be considered. But I will tell you that your property taxes, so looking at it from the town's point of view, the revenue that we derive from property taxes, there's a 1% cap on that. Revenue derived from multifamily housing is at 2%, and commercial property is at 3%. So when I look at this, I think, okay, if our property tax revenue grows at 1% a year, and that's the majority of where we get our money, and the town is growing at 2 or 3% a year, eventually you're not going to be able to keep up with services. So we need to balance out our tax base to make sure that we have more commercial tax base to take the pressure off our property tax owners and to take the pressure off the town to provide services that people need.
I don't follow. Is the land available for us to use for Zionsville to take control of, or are we going to buy it from the owners, or what's?
Yeah.
I don't follow. I apologize.
Okay, that's okay. So the question is Zionsville going to take control of that? And the answer is no. We're not in the real estate business. That's what real estate people do and landowners do, and I'm a stay in my lane kind of person. But there are talks between the people that own that property and those who would like to put some development there that's going to aid our tax base. Is that a good?
Yeah, they're probably going to do something. You want to have more influence as to what's going to happen there.
Thank you. Thank you. Say that again. Say that again.
It sounds like Taylor Oil is vacating the use of the property as it is now, or is potentially thinking about doing that, and you want to have greater input as to what occurs there.
Thank you. That's it. That's it. Yeah, we want to guide this process as best we can through a town-led planned unit development. I'll come right back down. Yeah.
Can we be envisioning something similar to like the Sun King area in Carmel, like in terms of family-friendly courtyard space?
Thank you for asking that. Everybody heard that, right? Okay. The question is, are we envisioning like the Sun King area in Carmel? We don't want to be Carmel. We want to be Zionsville. So yes, will we create an area that is family-friendly like that attracts people, that brings people in to go to the restaurants and go to the shops? Yes. Do we want to do it like Carmel did? No. I like Carmel. I don't want to say anything bad about Carmel. I become quite friendly with their new mayor, Sue Finkham, and we have a good relationship there, and I wouldn't want to ever hurt that relationship. But they've spent so much money creating that area, and what they've created is Disneyland, which is great. But what we have is real, and we need to make sure that we maintain the integrity of what we have. I've been to some events recently where other mayors have talked about, well, we're going to get some brick pavers, and we're going to put this in our downtown area. And I always say, well, that's cute. You're going to get brick pavers. Our bricks are real, and they've been there since 1852. That's our identity, that's who we are, and that's going to stay.
Okay. You mentioned a town-led PUD. I was wondering, when are we going to see it?
The PUD?
Yes, you mentioned the town-led PUD. I was wondering, when do we see it?
After today. Today's the launch. It'll be on the website today, and it will be available. In fact, Kate, can you go to the website? South Village, yeah, southvillagezionsville.com, I think it is.
Good, thank you. Also, from the slide you had of the new direction of the street, it looks like there are 3 roundabouts. That is, there are 3 circles in there, and I was wondering, are those all new roundabouts?
Yes. So here's what that does. Can we go to that page? Oh, you're calling up the...
Whoops, let me go back.
Yeah, to the street. Next one, or the next 2. There it is, yeah. So what this does, this is coming up Zionsville Road from the south. You're heading north. What this allows us to do is square off this property and make sure that property can be activated. It also slows down the traffic entering into our town, which is important, that we don't want people rushing through town. We want people going through slowly and considering just how wonderful our town is. So here you have, I can't reach high enough, but you have Hawthorne and Pine, which will now be turned into 2-way streets heading back to Main Street, to the Brick Street Business District. And this basically squares off this property, giving better opportunity for development to occur there. Much of this land is wetland, And we can mitigate that in a way that's going to be appropriate to make sure that, that we are using our land at the best possible use, I think, by doing this. One of the original thoughts, and this is, by the way, from a lot of input from people too, was to bring this road up here and have it curve in this direction. So there are two things there. You are going across usable land that is developable, and you're also not slowing down traffic as much as you are with this roundabout. I call it a dog bone. I guess I like dogs. Our traffic engineers say, well, you can call it a bow tie. I don't like bow tie. I like dog bone. I think that's more granular. That's more real for Zionsville. So that's the current thinking right now. It could change, but that's the current thinking right now. Yes.
What types of things could we be doing in the community to be helpful as the town embarks on this journey?
Did everybody hear that? What can we do as a community to be helpful? So the next step in the process is going to be, we're going to go to our plan commission with the town-led PUD, and hopefully we'll get a positive recommendation from our plan commission. The next step is to go to the town council, and the town council is going to vote on whether or not to accept this town-led PUD. With all due respect to our counselors in the room, I would like you to flood their email boxes. I'd love you to talk to them. I'd love you to encourage them in supporting this idea because they're the oversight for what we're doing here. They're the ones that get the final vote, and we hope we get a positive vote from them. So, do you know who your town councilor is? Reach out to them. Let them know how you feel. Want to write a letter to the editor? Who am I to stop you? And talk about it with your neighbors. I mean, I think that this isn't going to work if it doesn't work for everybody. So it's important to me to hear all the voices, to get ideas from people, to get thoughts from people, and build something that we're all going to be proud of. We are in this together. This is not me talking. This is not Kate talking. This is not Toph talking over there. We're all in this together. Everybody's voice needs to be heard. You want to say something? Oh, okay. Yes, Brett.
So if you take downtown Zionsville, sometimes I'm loud enough without a microphone. So if you take downtown Zionsville and put a 2-mile radius around it,
okay,
we have a pretty substantial residential arena that's pretty prosperous to draw from. Are we looking at incorporating bike lanes as well as parking for bikes and golf carts?
Yes, 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 and yes. And that's why we're that's why we're in this process now, because we want to hear those voices. We want to hear about, is there a need for bicycle parking? Is there a need for golf cart parking? Extra lanes, so people can travel safely. I know that connectivity is a big deal here. I know that people want it, and people that live in neighborhoods that are outside of the village, they want to be connected to other neighborhoods. They want to be connected to the village, and we are working on that. That's where I wish. Who said the thing before about the magic wand? If I had a magic wand, that's what I would do. That'd be the first step, to have that connectivity with all the different neighborhoods. And our comprehensive plan for the town is going to speak to that, and I know it's going to speak to that loudly. That's going to be an important aspect of what we do in the coming years. So, yes, we want to consider all of that and make sure that people are served the way they want to be served.
Is there a reason why to proceed with this before the comprehensive plan is completed?
Well, as I said, I think that the two can run concurrently because this is a special area. The South Village is a unique, special area. It's not overly populated right now. There's nothing happening there. There's been nothing happening there for over 50 years. And what we do there is not going to impact residents, except in a positive way. It's going to take pressure off property taxes, and it's going to create some diversity in our tax base. When it comes to the land use discussions that we're going to have in the comprehensive plan, it will take in the existing village. It will take in the existing farmland that we have in the rural areas that we have. But this area, I do believe, is a special case, and we can plan this now. And one more thing, I know you keep reaching for the mic, Sally, I'm sorry. But there's one more thing here. I think that, we need to recognize that this is the time. We have the landowners at the table. They have their financing lined up. They're in the planning process right now. If we're gonna wait 2 years, who knows where they're gonna be. We have critical mass right now to make good things happen in the South Village, and that's what I want to pursue.
So I'm assuming that you're including the Cove development in that because they have PUD already approved on the books.
Right. Yeah, so the Cove development, just generally speaking, is where the trailer park used to be. The new PUD, the new town-led PUD, will supersede the PUD that's in place now. That's part of the problem. I mean, there are several PUDs in that area that on some fronts, they mesh together, on others don't. We want to have one PUD for the town to control over the entire area.
So I'm concerned about the 40% of set aside for green space, because during the Sycamore Flats, the village people were very concerned about the mitigation at Eagle Creek, because that area is very sensitive. And even in the Cove area, there's very sensitive areas there, and we were all very concerned about that and the fill that was needed and talked about. And if 40% of that setback or set aside includes areas like that, then that green space is not really usable green space, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's okay, but it would certainly be better if 40% of that green space was green space that could include more paths or more, usable type area, I guess is what I'm saying.
That is the plan. There are engineers working on that are way smarter than me. And they tell us that we can build pathways in there. The DNR is at the table. IDEM is at the table. We're not going to do anything to hurt the geology or the sensitive environmental nature of that area. They are on board, and the engineers are working with them to make sure that the environment is not harmed. Excuse me.
Thank you for today, Mayor. This is a great presentation. We appreciate the website. I wanted to ask about the roundabouts.
Yes.
As we start to do that. I live by the Mulberry Ford Road roundabout, which is a little small. And just with the traffic that's going through there with buses, obviously with fire trucks, and then those of us who have a business on Main Street getting deliveries, there's a concern about what would the size of the roundabouts be and how would we make sure that those accommodate what we need there. So if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for asking. If anybody knows that roundabout at Ford Road and Mulberry, that's a small roundabout. And if you go through there, especially in the morning when kids are going to school and the afternoon when kids are leaving school, there's a lot going on there. And I get that. That area is confined by the space that we have there. And it would be very difficult to build a bigger roundabout there just because of the geography of the land. The roundabouts that we're talking about in the South Village don't have that problem. We have the luxury of being able to make them appropriately sized. We're going to make sure that our public safety is on board, so fire trucks can get through, so ambulances can get through in an efficient manner, that delivery trucks can get through in an efficient manner. I mean, we're not going to skimp on the size of those roundabouts. We're going to make sure that they are appropriate for the flow of traffic and the needs that we have in our village. Yes?
I just wanted to get clarification on boundaries of the South Village. So what you've shown, I think, kind of takes us up to the cemetery, a little bit south of 106.
Yes.
When you say South Village, are you talking all the way to the interstate, or does it stop at 106?
Thank you. So what we want to do is create, again, a town-led PUD that would stop there. That would be the boundaries of the town's jurisdiction. Would it be good to see additional development south of that area? I guess the marketplace will dictate that, and there's environmentally sensitive areas there too, and that would need to be considered. But we are focused right now on the 160 acres that go down to the old cemetery, down to the old 106th Street. Yes?
It's kind of a historical question that's been bounced around for maybe 50 years. As population grows out west between the village and I-65, a lot. It's been on and off the books for some time to have another access point to 865. We've got a bottleneck now happening at 65 and Whitestown Parkway. The only other is Route Michigan Road or Zionsville Road, and it seems inevitable that there needs to be another access point.
Because I think what you're talking about is the Hunt Club area and an exit at the Hunt Club area that would run up on 800.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Okay, I know you didn't say that. But that's what he means. Okay, so the Department of Transportation, think of a gorilla and think of an 800-pound gorilla. That's the State Department of Transportation. They are very sure of themselves in a lot of ways. So if they come in and they say that they want to build an exit there, it's going to be a fight if we want to try to stop it. Right now, that's not part of their plan, as far as I know. We had a meeting with the Crawfordsville section of the DOT, which is our area, and they do not have that in the plans right now. They do have plans for Michigan Road, and there's a website. Is it Michigan Road Forward, Kate, or Forward Michigan Road? What is it? 421 Forward. You can see what their plans are for Michigan Road. That's also been an area of concern, with more development there with Holiday Farms and Hidden Pines, that there's a lot of traffic there and the traffic moves fast. DOT has some plans for that. But this is what DOT does. They score projects like this based on traffic flow and access and all those things. And the score of that road is not at the top of the list yet. So they're looking at 2030 or 2032 before they put in signals along Michigan Road to slow down the traffic there and to make access easier in and out of those housing developments. So they're working way out. They're working, almost 10 years out in their plans for that. And I've heard nothing recently from them about the exit at the area that you're talking about, the Cooper Road area. So if that comes up again, that'll probably be a 10-year lead time, and we'll have opportunity to have a voice in that process. Might not be a successful voice, but we'll have a voice.
I think we have time for one more question.
One more question. Oh, let's make it a good one. All the way in the back of the room. Let's do that.
Hi, I'm Tanya with Black Dog Books, Tanya Rauterbush. And I was just wondering if Teddy Roosevelt were to come here and go to the Gateway Project, would there be a welcome center for him to find out about what's going on in Zionsville?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, it's a South Village project, but thank you. The Gateway Project, I think there were some good thoughts in that, and we're using that as kind of a starting point, but the South Village project expands beyond that. People informed. Believe that is the Civic Plaza area has that kind of flexibility to do that. Generally, first of all, we're going to have restrooms. You hear that? We're going to have restrooms. Thank you. Thank you. It's the first thing people applauded for, restrooms. Oh. But I would say to you that I think the people of Zionsville are very welcoming, are very kind, are very open. The whole town's a welcome center. If we decide and if people suggest putting in an actual welcome center that is dedicated to that space, something we can consider, certainly. But I do believe that our Brick Street merchants are open. I think our restaurants are very inclusive. I don't know. I think of the whole town as a welcome center, and I always have. And when I came here 30 years ago, that's why I moved to Zionsville and not somewhere else. So thank you so much. We really appreciate this. Thanks for the great questions. Okay, I guess, oh, you're going to talk? Good, good, good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership as Zionsville embarks on our next phase of our history. And I firmly believe the Zionsville's next brightest days are ahead of us. Thank you all for attending today. This concludes the program. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.